welcome to Zoosday Tuesday, where you get to be a part of our conversation about conservation. My name is Elissa. I am the Teen Programs Coordinator here at the Pueblo Zoo, and this week of Zoosday Tuesday is extra special because it is our ZooALIVE Takeover! So, I know what you might be thinking. What is ZooALIVE anyway? Let's ask some teens and find out.
Hi, I'm Sammy and this is Tilly.
I'm Capri and this is Sunset.
And in the ZooALIVE program, we learn how to deal with animals and present them to the public.
ALIVE stands for Active Leaders in Volunteer Education. But let's get back to today's topic. In this episode of Zoosday Tuesday, we will be talking about animals in human care. From the lions here at the zoo to your dogs and cats at home, they all need care from us. And specifically today, we will be talking to some experts in the field, a veterinarian from both here at the zoo and at a small animal clinic. Let's see what they have to say. Hi, thank you for joining us. Can you introduce yourself, your title, and how long you've been in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Heather Matz. I am the zoo veterinarian at Pueblo Zoo, and I have been a veterinarian since 2011. And in zoo medicine for about a year and a half. Prior to that was primarily doing like emergency medicine for any animal that kind of walked through the door. So that is what's happening. I also work part-time at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo as a zoo vet as well.
My name is Dr. Penelope Dukes, and I'm a small animal veterinarian. I graduated from Michigan State University in 1969. And I retired about 5 years ago.
Well, as a small animal veterinarian, how many different types of animals do you see in one day?
Well, usually I only saw dogs and cats, but then there were days we would see hamsters or ferrets, other types of small rabbits, guinea pigs, small pets like that. But mostly just dogs and cats.
I think that the variety, it can be all over the place with the numbers. Sometimes we walk in one day and we have the plan to focus on a species. Other times it's random that, this animal has this issue, so it would be very common for me to be talking about 8 different species in a day. And that can, go from mammals to birds to reptiles and back again, small to big, so lots of variety.
So what is the biggest animal that you've ever treated?
So I think it's based on the definition of treated. So I have worked with elephants, so that would be the largest. But elephants in zoos are a hands-off species for their welfare. So not making direct contact with the elephants, still prescribing, looking at looking at them visually to do an exam, that sort of thing. But as far as kind of more hands-on work, I actually would say Presley, our camel here.
Well, when I was in veterinary school, we did work on horses, and I happened to be working one day with a draft horse, so I think that really has to qualify as the largest animal I ever treated.
So on the other side of the spectrum, what's the smallest animal you've ever treated?
So that's tough. There's lots of itty-bitty critters when it comes to zoo medicine. If they're babies, if they're insects, lots of itty-bitty frogs and things like that. Some of the birds I've worked with have been like 30 grams, so very, very small birds. But the one thing that came to mind with you saying that would be I did recently perform what's called a necropsy, which is basically examining something that's passed away on a black widow spider. So that probably is the smallest species that I have worked on.
I had to think about that, because I wanted to say something like a hamster, but then I thought, well, no, I've treated canaries and finches, and they're pretty tiny, lightweight birds, so yeah. I have done that.
So, how do the animals you take care of get medication?
Well, that's sometimes the biggest challenge. Some drugs need to be administered by injection, mostly subcutaneous injections just under the skin or intramuscularly, like some antibiotics. Some medications have to be given intravenously, which you can do by placing an IV catheter, and generally you're also giving IV fluids at that time. But for the most part, we relied on owners to give medications at home. And so sometimes the pets were not always real cooperative. So you had to be kind of sneaky about it and put a pill in something like some blob of peanut butter on a cracker or inside a piece of a hot dog or a wad of cheese or something like that. But for the most part, animals are pretty good about taking medications.
As long as you ride them with the tree, I guess.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. So in general, animals in the zoo, we consider them wild animals. Even though they are in captivity, we treat them as wild as we can while still providing them with the care they need to have a good quality of life. If they have arthritis, we like to give them pain medications, that sort of thing. So most commonly, it is the keepers that are giving medications. And usually it's not a matter of what you might do with a dog or cat at home, which is open the hatch, drop the pill down, hope they swallow. We're doing the hands-off approach. So keepers get really creative with giving medications. For instance, for penguins, we commonly use a needle and syringe and inject medications into fish, and then hand those fish to the penguins that need that medication. And that's an example of how creative we have to get.
so, what procedure do you do most commonly?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the season.
Okay.
So right now, we're approaching a lot of different animals' breeding season. So right now, today, put in implants underneath the skin of a couple lemurs for birth control purposes. For animals we do not want breeding, so that's something I'm doing really commonly right now. But outside of that, my hope would be the most common things I'm doing is regular exams, preventative health like vaccines and so forth.
I had to think about that, and I think a lot of it was preventive health care. We wanted to be able to check your pet once a year to make sure that they were healthy and that they weren't overweight, they didn't have dental disease. And we also did usually annual vaccinations.
So, what was your favorite part of your job?
I didn't realize this when I started in veterinary medicine, and I'm kind of an introvert, so I was always happy doing surgery, just let me put my gloves and my mask on, my sterile gown, and listen, we've got a tumor to remove, or we have a dog to spay. A C-section, loved doing C-sections. They were always a lot of fun. But I'd have to say surgery overall.
I think the variety, the challenge, that sort of thing is really fun. Unfortunately, as a veterinarian, you don't always get to go out and say hi to all the animals and have lots of positive experiences with the animals. So when I do have the time to do that, to kind of bond with animals outside of oh, the vet's here,
Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Give me a shot. That can be really refreshing when there's time for that sort of thing.
And last but not least, in your opinion, why do animals need veterinary care?
So I think in general, especially in this zoo setting, animals need someone to look out for their welfare, and keepers, zookeepers do have a really big role in that as well. But lots of times their perspective on welfare and monitoring is going to be a little bit different than someone with a medical mind, and so I think veterinary care is needed to basically work with keepers to give these animals the best life that we can, and give them long, healthy, pain-free lives whenever possible.
First is the preventive medicine that we do. With vaccines and proper care, you can prevent many diseases, which is much better than having to treat them. Also, dealing with parasites, such as intestinal parasites, roundworms, or intravascular parasites like heartworm disease. There are good methods of treatment and prevention for all of those. Also, veterinarians are expected to be nutritionists and make sure that animals are getting proper diets and don't have any nutritional deficiencies. And it's also important for veterinarians to be available to neuter, particularly our household pets. We have overpopulation issues. There are too many pets that end up in shelters for varieties of reasons. So spaying and neutering your pet is really a great idea.
Thank you so much for letting me interview you today. We got some really awesome answers, and I'm super excited to share them with my ZooAlivers and everybody watching Zoosday Tuesday.
Well, I was glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Elissa.
That was so cool to hear from two different kinds of veterinarians, a small animal and our zoo vet.
Yes, I thought it was so interesting. They both had mentioned how important it is to do preventative care, making sure your pets get vaccinated, just taking care of them before there's any issues.
I also noticed that they both talked about spay and neutering. I know that it's very important here at the zoo to control birth. And it's also very important for homeowners and pet owners to spay and neuter their animals, not just for their health. Spayed or neutered cat or dog lives longer, but also for population control. We have a lot of kittens and puppies at shelters all over.
Yeah, so our three big takeaways from interviewing our veterinarians were spay and neuter your dogs and cats, like Anne had said. Make sure your pets are updated on their vaccines to keep them healthy. And third, make sure you appreciate your veterinarians. If you see them here at the zoo, make sure you say thank you. But especially when you go to your veterinarian for your dog and cat, you can appreciate them there too.
That's such a great message. I would also like to add that animals need enrichment. Here at the zoo, one of our zookeepers' responsibilities is to keep our animals in human care supplied with objects that will allow them to engage in natural behaviors. So sometimes you might see paper towel tubes or something inside an enclosure. That's enrichment. And at home, you can make toys for your cat or dog so that they have their exercise for their brain as well. The ASPCA has some directions to make different kinds of enrichment just from stuff you have around at home.
Yeah, so one example I want to share with you today is how to make an easy dog enrichment toy. You need three things: a paper towel roll, some kibble, and some sort of scent. So here at the zoo, we got some spices and some perfume, but it's really important that whatever you use as your scent, you make sure it's safe for your animal, your dog or cat. Make sure you look it up and you know for sure that it's safe. But the first thing you're going to do to make this dog toy is fold up one end of your paper towel tube. You're going to put in the kibble. You're going to add whatever sort of scent you got that's safe, and then you're going to close up the other end. And you've got a super easy dog enrichment toy.
And here's a toy that we made on Earth Day just from recycled parts. It's a toy for your cat. It's just made from leftover yarn. Here's a key that nobody knew what it went to anymore. So we tied it on as a shiny object, and we have a bell. And you can just play with your cat. They will really enjoy that kind of activity.
Yep. So now let's see if we've gotten any questions from you guys out there. Okay, so it looks like we have one, and they wanted to know, what do the lions eat at the zoo? That's a really good question. So I am not a lion keeper, but I have talked to some of the lion keepers, and they told me that the lions get a really special meat that comes from a company that makes food specifically for animals at the zoo. So they have a very specific lion diet that they get. It's similar to some meat that you might buy at the store for yourself, except for it's enriched with bone, minerals and vitamins and all kinds of things that the lions need. So that is what they eat. Let's see if we have anything else. Oh, yep. Looks like someone wants to know, what does ASPCA stand for? You want to take that one?
I'll take that. ASPCA stands for the American Society for the Protection of, for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And it was started in the 1860s by a man named Henry Berg, who was so impacted by the sight of a carriage driver beating his horse that he decided he would start an organization to protect animals from cruelty. And that and the Humane Society are the two biggest animal protection societies in our country.
Awesome. And they also give us great ideas for toys.
Yes.
Okay, one more question. Somebody wants to know how do I become a ZooALiver? Now that's a good question for me specifically. You have to be between the 7th and 11th grade, and then the application will open next year in around March. You'll find it on our website. You can look at it under the education part of our website, and you should be able to find the application on there, and then you apply and we'll review everything, and hopefully we will get you accepted. Let's see. Looks like that's all the questions we have for today. So thank you so much for joining us for Zoosday Tuesday.
And join us next month. We air every first Tuesday of the month at 1:30. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you next month.
And I will leave you with a picture of what our ZooALivers have been up to this year with our animals here at the zoo.
Bye.